Alright, hey guys. I want to show you a quick trick to make it so you didn't have to use these actors to prevent the grid from generating in spots where you don't want it to go. This method differentiates your ground from everything else. So you can make it so the ground always generates the grid, and everything else that's on the channel, whether it be foliage like these guys are, or a static mesh, as long as it's blocking the channel, it will block the ray, which is what you want. It is not using the same method that Alex used. So it is using a trace, but it is not using a multi-trace. Alex used a multi-trace overlap in a BP actor, and uh, you could do it that way. I can't stand overlaps personally when it comes to traces. So I'm gonna avoid that. So no overlap. Everything that the trace interacts with is set to block. So block, 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 and the trees are also block. However, we have taught our trace to tell the ground apart from everything else. So get to it. All right. So what doesn't need to be changed? Anything past the set. So on video 16, all the stuff exactly the same. The only thing you're changing is this right here. Um, don't worry about this. This is just so I can continue seeing my debug lines of a checkbox. What you mainly want to focus on is this is a spear by trace, or spear trace by channel. It is not a multi-sphere trace by channel. Um, so the reason why we're doing that is because we're not using overlap. So there's no point. Um, so what we're doing is on hit, we go to a break. So on hit and then break. And then you do the drop down and you find physical material. And then what you do is you connect that to an equals object. That's what I have here. And don't worry, you won't have this option yet. We'll get to it. And then the boolean for the return value of your spear trace, whether it hits something. So did I hit something? No. Then tile type none, because you're hitting the air. And then if you did hit something, okay, is it a physical material ground? If that is true, then we go on to generator grid. However, if it's false, so if it hits something but it's not PM ground, then it will be considered an obstacle. Great. All right. So let me show you how to get your physical material. So what you need to do is go into your materials and create a new folder called physical materials. Once you create the folder, right click and then go into physics and then go down to physical materials. Create that, and then this will pop up, and then just click that physical material and hit select. Once you have your physical material created, just go in, save it. So have this up, just save it, exit out. None of this matters for what we're doing. And just rename this. So right click and rename it PM underscore ground. PM stands for physical material. That's what we're using. And now all you have to do is, so this is a ground piece, this is a ground piece, and I also want my bridge to work, right? So you select your ground piece, go down to collision, that custom channel that Alex had you make, um, I don't know if I named it exactly the same sense, but make sure it's on block. Everything that interacts with the grid generation has to be block. So don't worry about overlap anymore. You're just using block now. So make sure that's on block. And this is the ground. So what you want to do is Let me get rid of that. So you'll have this physical material override. Just open it up, and that PM ground will be in there. Once you select that, this is telling, this overrides the material of this and tells it that it is the ground. So I have that set up on this, and my bridge. And that's why it can tell that it's the ground. I also have it on this. So this is also the ground, this is an obstacle. So if you hit play, generate based on environment, you can see that around my trees, the grids are disappearing, which is exactly what you want. That way you can just, paint with your foliage tool, and you don't have to worry about any of this. As long as you have your ground set up, and you have it, so, another thing that's important is the foliage that you painted from. You want the static mesh that you created it from. So let's go to my meshes, right? What you painted from, open it up, make sure you got collision. You have to have collision or it won't work. I made this one myself, even though it looks like Alex's style, but it didn't have collision when I made it. I had to add it. And to add collision, you gotta click here, hit add simplified box, and then once you have the box, you can select it, move it around, do whatever you want. And from the static mesh that you create your foliage from, you have to have, see, this isn't right. This should have been by default on block right here for ground grid. You have to have it that way. I don't actually understand how that was working without that, considering it was using the trick channel, but I digress. But you have that set up so it's blocking that particular channel. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I can think of. You just have to remember to override anything you want to be the ground, and that's basically it. Oh, and a warning if you want to do this differently. I ran into some weird things. So I'm using the same version of Unreal, so I'm using 4.25.4. In this version, the spear trace is very weird. When it comes to physical materials, you have to use the override. So, like, if I had a material that used the material ground instances, I tried to make a material that counted as the ground, and this counts up as the ground. It was supposed to count as the ground because it's this is a material instance, but the material that it's based off of, M ground, has the physical material. However, Unreal ignores that. And it doesn't tell you why, but I think the reason why is it only pays attention to that if you were doing trace complex, which is really stupid. I don't know why it works that way. I guess it's to save on resources. So, however, for whatever reason, the override can still pull up this information. So if you have the override on, it works. So a little weird, but that's how I got it to work.